Unspoken Issues.
The Unspoken Issues podcast, we have returned, and we is me, Jesse Starcher, and Dean Compton. Dean Compton, we're talking Hardcase and The Strangers tonight. Are you prepared, sir, to hop into the Ultraverse and talk some 90s comics?
I've been prepared to talk about the Ultraverse since before the Ultraverse dropped, and telling my mom, I was like, listen, you got to understand, this is your chance to buy Fantastic Four #1. This is your chance to buy Amazing Fantasy 15. This is your chance to buy Fool Killer #1. You can get in on the ground floor. And I really meant it. And, I thought I was talking in weird, this would be worth a bunch of money one day. Obviously that didn't pan out. But as far as being able to get in on the ground floor of a superhero universe, I love the Ultraverse. I love Hardcase. I love the Strangers. I love this crossover. So yeah, I'm absolutely ready to talk about it. Much more so than my mom was, who was like, shut the fuck up. I don't talk about the Ultraverse. I'm very busy.
Yeah. Darry, wait. We're heading into the Ultraverse, buddy. What were you getting Ultraverse comics back in the day? Were you picking these things up off the shelf?
No, unfortunately, I slept on this. I had no idea what was going on. I didn't recognize anyone. I got a little excited when Marvel bought them, but by the time I realized that had happened, they had shuttered the company. So
yeah.
So it was unfortunate. So no, I've only read bits and bobs over the years, but Dean has recommended various ones repeatedly, so I've read them here and there. But finally sitting down and reading the 2-issue storyline, I loved it, and I went down a hole of the Ultraverse today, just going and finding out where all these character arcs went. So this will certainly not be the last arc from the Ultraverse that I do read.
What year did you start buying comic books heavily?
91, 92.
So do you remember the hype though? Because it's weird. You're like, I didn't even know what was happening. They had MTV commercials and posters everywhere. Jump on now! You missed all that hype, because I feel like if you got Wizard or Hero, Comics Buyer's Guide, Comic Book Collector, Comic Scene, I don't know, Comics Values Monthly, I think we're about out now. There's Overstreet Update. If you got any of these, you should have known about the Ultraverse.
I'm a little younger than you guys, so
okay.
I didn't have any of that stuff. And you got to remember, you got to think of those years. There were a lot of #1s,
True.
Right? So Image was coming out around that time. The Ultraverse was coming out a couple years later. There were a lot of #1s. I didn't necessarily know which ones, how they all related, which ones to pick up, which ones to sleep on. I knew I liked Spawn because I had the Spawn toys. So that was kind of the segue there. And I do remember the Ultraforce cartoon. And that got me very excited because that was something I'd watch on USA in between, Savage Dragon and Mortal Kombat. So I was very excited.
The Cartoon Express.
Yeah.
Wow.
Good times.
All aboard the Cartoon Express, the USA Cartoon Express. Traveling east and heading west. It's a great big all-out cartoon fair.
Somebody needs to get that train back on the tracks.
The thing that kills me is there was so many. I mentioned that there were a lot of #1s back then, and most of that stuff disappeared because it was privately owned and it never got picked up and what have you. But the Ultraverse was bought hook, line, and sinker by Marvel. It's owned by the Disney Corporation. The only thing preventing Prime and Hardcase and all the others from being comics, movies, what have you, is money, really. And I'm sure I'm oversimplifying it. I don't know any of the guys behind the scenes, but at the same time, part of it is why has this not been brought back, at least for one series? We're getting a new cross-gen book, and even if that's just to hold the copyright up, it's give me a little bit more Hardcase, guys.
Well, I can tell you, because I am friends with, people who were behind the scenes at Malibu. And Tom Mason has gone on the record. You have to look at the contracts. And I'm not going to name names, but the reason that the Ultraverse it hasn't been brought back has nothing to do with any royalties or that the creators own anything. It's pretty much the same contract that Garth Ennis has with DC, from around the same time when it comes to like the Preacher material or Hitman or anything like that. I'm not gonna say any particulars because I don't know the particulars of those deals, but Tom Mason and Dave Olbrich and the people who are behind Malibu assure everyone that these are pretty normal deals. There is someone who was associated with Malibu Comics, and it's not going to be hard to find out who. I'm not going to name the names, but this person was not very well regarded by the Marvel people, if memory serves, and has a bad reputation overall. Again, you can look this up. Apparently this person was, they've had a lot of problems with paying people on time, that kind of thing, according to various comic book publications. And I don't know how much of that is true or not, but we know the reputation's there. What happens is that particular person has an executive producer claim on anything that came from Malibu. So they don't want to work with him. There's no point in bringing these comic books back as comic books. They've got 1,000 freaking characters, 1 million characters. Like, is there room right now? It's like, oh man, if only they bring back Rune. I'm not seeing that. You know what I mean? And they actually did put Rune in the Hero Clicks in the last 2 or 3 years, which is pretty cool. But the reason there's no comic books is they don't think there's money to be made off comic books, and they don't need these characters to branch out into other forms of media. From what I understand, the reason has to do with that one personality, and even that shouldn't be an issue anymore, but there's not really much money in it. There's not even enough money in it to go through the process of digitizing it, to put it on like Marvel Unlimited, which is a much more painstaking process than people think. The reason that the Ultraverse is not coming back has nothing to do with any of those deals. It has something to do with, what I mentioned. And again, I don't want to name too many names, but it's easy to find out if you go just Google a couple things about Malibu Comics and the Ultraverse.
What kills me is, one of the things that DC always gets right is absorbing, its neighbors, right? It brought the Charlton characters into everything. It brought back Shazam and his family. It even brought in the Wildstorm characters. And the
quality guys before that too, with the Plastic Man, Blackhawk, the Earth X heroes.
Oh yeah,
Freedom Fighters.
Yeah, I mean, they're
Human Bomb rules, guys. I don't want to get off on too much of a tangent, but goddamn, what a guy. Blowing shit up, wearing a fucking, nuke suit. I love him. Go on.
All I was going to say is, it's one of those rare cases where it's like, I wish Marvel hadn't bought them, because if DC had bought them, I'm sure they would have found a way to, suitably underutilize these characters, but at least they'd be in something. Right. There'd be like Hardcase and The Outsiders or some other like B-level Warner Brothers property they wanted to promote, but they'd be there. And then, I don't know, whoever this generation's version of James Robinson is would bring Prime back, and I'd be picking that up monthly.
The suicide solution.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
that's pretty good, honestly.
Crisis on Earth Malibu.
With the exception of Prime and Freaks for Gerard Jones's legal problems. I mean he's fucking felonious, child porn guy. So legal problems is probably too light of a way to put it. Nobody's going to do anything with Prime or Freaks again. Like, you're just not. And honestly, in hindsight, Prime's kind of creepy with what you know about that guy now. Yeah. But yeah, for sure. Everybody else, you're 100% right. DC would have probably worked them in much better, just based on how, even if and I hear the Wildstorm people complain all the time. They don't get Grifter right. They don't get Wildcats right. But they try like every 5 years.
They're trying.
The Milestone guys, they don't think they quite get them right either, but they try like every 4 or 5 years. I think you're right. They would have much more of a presence and be more likely to escape the comic book world into other forms of media if they had gone to DC. But Marvel wasn't going to have that at the time, because that would have pissed the stockbrokers off. Right?
Yeah, the Wildstorm thing is such a good analogy, because I was such a huge fan of that when it was coming out, and when it was bought, I was like, this isn't a great sign, but whatever. But the thing I always go back to is Shazam. It's like, for the most part, DC doesn't know what to do with those characters.
Not really.
But every once in a while, we get a story that makes it worthwhile. Like, we got the Jeff Smith series back in the 2000s. That was worth having to read every piece of Roy Thomas fan fiction I have ever struggled through, or like the more recent Multiversity issues, or there was a 2-part Convergence thing. Like, again, they're few and far between.
Jerry Ordway's Power of Shazam is great too.
Oh yeah, sure. Yeah, but it's just one of those things where it's like, if it had gone into the public domain, or if Fawcett was owned by the people who owned like Tarzan, you wouldn't get that. So having it at DC, and every once in a while someone comes in and is like, hey, can I do my own thing with this? And they're like, yeah, just, don't bother us. And then they do it and it's great. And 3 people read it and then that's it for 10 years. It'd be the same thing here. Like you'd get a really good hard case story and then that's it for 10 years while they try to work the characters into their, whatever nonsense they're doing this week, Dark Crisis. But yeah.
It's tough to see.
The breakthrough.
The breakthrough.
The guy who they probably, out of all the people that DC's brought in that they've gotten the most right, is probably Plastic Man, which is odd because they already had stretchy guys. Yeah. And I think Blue Beetle's probably a close second as far as those guys. Like Blue Beetle fits into the universe to the point where it's hard to think of him that he was ever not a part of that universe. But those 2 guys, work pretty well. And then you have, Mr. Majestic, who I don't know if they quite ever worked. I like Mr. Majestic. I like Majestic a lot. I'm a big fan of Superman analog, so we're getting off on a different tangent. But yeah, if DC had bought Malibu, we would see those. We would still be seeing at least shadows of those guys.
Yeah, the Nightman would be playing saxophone in some rundown Gotham place where Ghostmaker or Clown Killer, whatever nonsense Tinian is trying to push, is attending as a patron.
Batman would do some super ninja shit and Prototype's armor would just shatter.
Yeah, it is tough to watch these properties that were really successful in the 90s get buried or just not have the staying power that this was a whole universe that was going to be around for so long. It's the same thing with the Image continuity that was going on at that point too. You think, well, this will be around forever, and then it goes away, and we are left here wanting. Why can't we have this? Why can't we have?
I can tell you why. It's a very simple answer. I'll cut right to the fucking quick. It's because comic books were in the middle of a speculative boom at the time. They were selling huge amounts of money, which attracted outside investor capital. The problem is you have things like Valiant at one point was like, we promise never to print more than 250,000 of any issue. I'm sorry, I like Dr. Mirage #2, but do you think 250,000 fucking people bought that to read it? Do you really think that? It's not true. So you have all these people pumping money in during a speculative bubble, and they're stupid. I'm not trying to say anything bad about them, but they're bankers. They're like SNL people. They don't know shit from apple butter about comic books. Right. So they think this is how it is, especially at the same time you have CNN. Gareb Shamus is on CNN telling people that Action Comics #1 is worth 20 grand, 30 grand at the time, which it was. But then he's like, so you better get Turok Dinosaur Hunter #1. So you have this hype, you have these inflated numbers, and you have people with money that need to spend it to either get rid of it so it looks good on their balance sheet for some reason, or because they think they're going to make $1 trillion because Shadow Man met Aerosmith or what the fuck ever. And that's it. That's why these things happen. I mean, you said, oh man, these things were successful. Why did they carry on? They weren't. They weren't fucking successful. That's why they didn't carry on. That's why they had to sell Malibu, because they were hemorrhaging fucking money. And I'm not saying anything that Tom Mason and Chris Olm and Dave Overton, they would say these same things, They might say it with less, of that Southern swagger I got, but it's the same thing. They had to sell before there was nothing to sell. At the end of the day, that's why comic books have never been quite as good, or I don't say quite as good because it's not from a financial perspective. That's why you haven't had a bunch of what's the biggest rollout new venture from anybody with a bunch of money since then? It was CrossGen. What did the guy do? He used his own fucking money, because ever since then, there's no reason for big financial backers to come in and be like, okay, I'm going to pump an extra $3 million into Dark Horse. We're tops. Let's start a comic book company. Malibu is going to make, we have a films division and we have video game division. Let's put all this money into one thing and we'll make one big synergetic media, empire. Well, the biggest comic book now doesn't sell 100 grand. So who'd be excited? Right. Take $1 million. Jesus Christ. The me you love in the dark's going to take off. It might. That's the thing. It might, like The Walking Dead did, but nobody's going to put the big money into it thinking that bigger money is coming, because there's not big money in it from the start. Sorry to rant like that. But guys act fucking mystified in 90s books. And it's just a simple answer. Like, it's not, there's nothing complicated about it.
Shadow Man did meet Aerosmith, though. He's absolutely.
I covered that. That happened
Shadow
on
Man number
this.
19. I bought it off the shelves. It was going to be worth $1 million.
Eat the rich, baby. I remember.
Yeah. Master Dark's all like digging in Steven Tyler's voodoo doll heart. What a moment.
That universe when it started, and I wasn't picking up any of those books either. I saw them. I was going to the LCS and I'd see them sitting on the shelves. But again, it's one of those things where I was like, oh, I already told you guys, do I want to jump into a different title? Well, now I got to be like, do I want to jump into a different universe? It seemed kind of daunting to me. Like, okay, well, getting on the ground floor of things, that's definitely appealing to some other people. I can tell you that.
Daunting to you, like you're like, I don't even know if I want to take on an extra title. One of the things that Ultraverse like really marketed itself on its brand was that things would be interconnected, to the point where, like, when I was talking to Darry before we came on, you can argue that the pre-Marvel Ultraverse is just one big crossover in a lot of ways. Did that turn you off as well? You're like, wow, it's not like I can just pick up, Solitaire. I'm going to have to get a whole bunch of other books. Did that enter your mind at all?
No. I had no idea what was going on in the Ultraverse at all, man. I'm
the only person who heard any of the
right, dude. Ultraverse. That's what you're telling your mom before it comes out. I have no idea it's happening. I see it on the shelves, but I had no idea what was going on. And I was getting Wizard too. So I guarantee you I probably saw, I'd seen some advertisements for it, but I didn't know it was going to be that big of a deal. But a lot of people swear by this. I mean, a lot of people really enjoyed what the Ultraverse put out. So we're talking Hardcase and The Strangers. All right. Now, Dean, I know you said that back in the day this held up for you. You're the one that chose this. I mean, do you have any other justification as to why you decided to pick these two issues to talk tonight?
Well, first off, I just want to point out that I bought these issues. I did not steal these two. I actually bought them.
Oh, man.
American currency for them. Mostly because we haven't talked a lot of Ultraverse yet. And again, like I said, the Ultraverse can be complicated at times because of how interconnected it is. But also that's part of its appeal. And this was a great way to get across like a microcosm of the Ultraverse. Hardcase and Strangers crossing over. Big fan of both characters. I thought this was a good way, like Darry said and like you said, I haven't read a lot of the Ultraverse. Well, this is a pretty good way to do it because you're going to get introduced to a bunch of characters all at once, some important background guys. There's some good punching. So
yeah, there is. All right. So let me go down. I'm going to go through a character rundown here, just to kind of familiarize our listeners with who.
Hey, with these guys, it's a character fun down. Am I right?
Sure. I mean, we're going to start out with Hardcase. That's going to be our first issue that we're going to be talking about tonight. Hardcase, his actual name, Tom Hawk, created by James Hudnall, Jim Callahan, and Dave Gibbons. We were talking Watchmen a few seconds ago. Dave Gibbons is credited as a Hardcase creator.
I believe he designed the costume and drew like a lot of the promotional material in the first cover. This is going to get posted to the Ultraverse group, so whatever we get wrong, don't worry. I mean, like 39,000 people ready to tell us.
So Hardcase, first appearance, Prime #1, June of 1993. Hardcase is a struggling actor who became a superhuman with enhanced strength and durability, and former member of the Squad, a super team consisting of members Starburst, DJ Blast, and Forza. Real quick, most of what I grabbed my information from is marvel.fandom.com. So they are at least on the Marvel fandom page. We'll put it that way. We also have Choice, which her real name is Amy Tran Quintney, created by James Hudnall, and Cranial Implant Studio. First appeared, Hardcase #2, July of 1993, so a couple issues before the one we're going to be talking about tonight. Now, Dean, I said I didn't have time to write down exactly what Choice is all about here. Can you kind of give us an idea of who Choice is?
Sure. Choice is kind of the representative of the Choice Corporation, like kind of their out front icon, like their their Revlon girl or whatever. And they make a lot of things. One of them is like Choice Cola, Choice this and that. One of the coolest things about the Ultraverse is there's no shortage of shady corporations. The Choice Corporation is one of them. They did focus groups. They're like, well, if you had an Ultra as a spokesperson, whoa, the people would dig it. So they made it Ultra, made her forget it, implanted shit in her to where she couldn't remember what, how she became an Ultra. And her powers are very similar to Ultra Boys. She can fly. She's super strong. She has some invulnerability. She can shoot some eye blasts, but she's got to choose. Hence the name Choice.
Ah, okay.
Just like Ultra Boy in the future, he can do anything Superboy can do, but he can only do it one at a time.
What's she doing palling around with Hardcase here?
Well, she's skedaddled off from the Choice Corporation, and she's going to he's the most visible Ultra there is. He's like the oldest one. Honestly, Hardcase is a lot like the Golden Age Superman in a lot of ways. On Earth too, like everybody kind of looks up to him. He can't, and his powers are also similar. He can't fly, but he can jump a long way. He's pretty strong and pretty invulnerable. But if you shoot him with like a big missile in the tummy, you know, it's not going to be great for him. You know, much like an exploding shell could hurt the old Golden Age Superman. So Choice goes to him because she needs help, and he just got back on the scene. You know, like he retired after the squad got killed. The events of Hardcase #1, that's when he comes back, and she goes looking for him because, like, he's the most, they say he's the most visible Ultra. It's the same reason the Strangers come here. Yeah, it's this crossover because he's the oldest one. Hopefully, he'll know something. At least he's the oldest one that they know about.
Then we have The Strangers, created by Steve Englehart and Rick Hoberg. All of these creations first appeared in Strangers #1, June of 1993. So this is a group of people that were on a cable car, and they were showered with some energy and developed some powers after what they call, it's being referred to as the jumpstart effect.
The jumpstart, yeah.
And it turns these...
now!
Yeah, this jumpstart effect hits these people on the cable car, turns them into Ultras. So that is what, I don't know if we've already established that, but ladies and gentlemen, the superpowered beings of the Ultraverse are called Ultras. So let me run down the Strangers here real quick. We got Atom Bob, Robert Hardin, able to rearrange matter on the molecular or atomic level. Then we have Lady Killer, Elena LaBrava, a fashion designer who gained the power to become an expert marksman. She's also a great acrobat, from what I understand. Electro Cute. An android by the name of Candy, built for pleasure purposes, but given sentience by the jumpstart effect. Electrocute has the ability to project bolts of electricity, as well as a highly durable body. Grenade.
Come on, that sounded so creepy. You're a bad person. Go on.
I stopped reading what it said, sir. Highly durable body. Grenade, who is Hugh Fox, an ill-tempered person. I got an ill-tempered, is he a teenager or is he in his 20s?
They're in community.
Okay, all right.
Adam Bob or like go to
ill-tempered person who can fire explosive blasts. I assume just out of anything. Like I think at one point he fires
out of his chest. He's always like spread it, you know, like he's like Raven. He's like, quote the Raven, nevermore. Out of his fucking chest. Like I respect that. It's different also, like the way Stryker has like 3 arms on one side. Like normally people who blast stuff inside of their hands, he like pecks up. I respect it.
I love how you switched to Cyberforce with no context whatsoever. It's like, if you're listening to this, you know who Stryker is. I don't need to explain myself.
I mean, listen. If you're listening to this, you don't know who Cyberforce is. Congratulations. You're in the wrong spot. Stick around. It's going to be fun. But I don't know what the fuck you're doing here, how you wound up here, buddy.
We've got folks that have listened to our Soviet Super Soldiers #1 and are still confused. They're like, wait a second, Cyberforce was part of the Russian... Wait.
Oh, no. Yeah, right. Oh, very nice. Very nice.
So, Spectral, David Castiglione can cover himself in flames that grant him different powers. So now it's different color flames that result in a different power. I think at one point he turns green and he's able to use that to heal somebody. So that's kind of what we've got going on with Spectral. And then we have Ariel, mysterious lady. There's some like magic involved here.
She's many of the floating island in the sky. She's from the sky people. And I don't remember how she wound up off the top of my head a part of the Strangers, but they're friends now. They have a complicated story about it. And it's actually pretty good where like they go to her place and when, you know, because her father doesn't want her to leave and stuff. Pretty cool stuff, honestly. She's almost kind of like a Deus Ex Machina. She can kind of just do what needs to be done. Like she can fly, but she also knows magic, and then she has knowledge. So I really like her. I really do.
I thought she was going to be the team's antagonist. Like I was reading this and I was like, oh, okay. All of these people met on public transportation. They all got their powers at the same time. They have a shared origin. They're going to deal with their drama. And then for no reason, they are fighting a hyper powerful demigoddess who seems to control the elements. I'm like, oh, that will probably be the antagonist. She's going to clearly come from this hidden society and she's going to test them. And I know the character of Topaz from Ultraforce has a similar background. So I was like, oh, good. She'll have, I think you people call it a heel turn, but it never came. And I was just like,
us people.
people. And it was just like, oh, you're just part of the team. Oh, okay. Welcome to the Ultraverse.
You got swerved, buddy. The heel turn comes from someone else.
Yeah, right.
I got the same feeling there, Darry, because a lot of this, my notes were like the team's still kind of unsure of her. Like there's a couple instances in where they're like, wait a second, why didn't you tell us this before? And well, I didn't have to. It's just there's definitely a sense of uneasiness when it comes to her spot on the team and what she's doing. But regardless, she is part of the Strangers and she's helping them out. Then we have
strangest stranger of them all.
Yes, indeed. And then finally, to round out the Strangers, we have Zip Zap. Leon Balford, a young teenager from the hood with the power of super speed. So this kid's really, really fast. He's got an attitude to boot sometimes, which is pretty funny.
He's fast because his shirt has lightning on it.
Oh, right.
Yeah.
Right. The antagonist of these couple books is an organization called Aladdin. So Aladdin is a government agency created to deal with the increasing amount of ultras throughout the world. Aladdin was created by James Hudnall and Steve Englehart, first appeared in this issue, Hardcase number 4, September of 1993. And Dean, you said these guys become a pretty important part of the Ultraverse, right?
I obviously it's not exactly the same, but they basically become like the shield of the Ultraverse. They, have their hands in everything, and like sometimes they're dirtier than others, and sometimes they're playing nice with the heroes, and sometimes they're not. And later on, they'll have their own agents, and one of them, Wrath, will have his own book. I enjoyed the book. I remember I bought that one too. Did not steal it. I bought that one. Wrath number 1 and Wrath number 2, and then that's when my comic book store closed, so I didn't get any more. But I liked it. Wasn't even available for stealing.
It's like, I don't know what's going to be center square on our bingo card when it's all said and done, but that's damn close. Did Dean steal an issue? Check.
I feel like since I told y'all I stole a lot of comic books, like y'all want to know every time. Did he steal this? Did he not? So listen, I'll back off on it. It's no problem.
I secretly do want to know every single time.
That's what I thought. I know what people really want. That's why I'm here.
Oh,
what
man.
They want to know if I stole the comic, and they want to know Cyberforce. They want Cyberforce to be involved where Cyberforce is
as many Cyberforce references as you can make.
If you could please reference Cyblade, sir.
The only other thing I'll say, just as background, is I didn't read all the Ultra books when they were coming out originally, but I don't remember how, but I eventually got a set of the Ultraverse trading cards, which I read far more of them than I probably should have. And only years later did I discover that there were more characters in the trading card set that ever made it into the actual books, which I had no idea. Really? So for the longest period of time, I had all these characters bouncing around in my head. I'm like, oh man, I should really get to be reading these one day. And then I found out later on, like, I don't know what percentage, but they just never got around to putting in the book. So if you ever get a chance to read like random trading cards, there's like, it's extra bonus material that they never got around to doing in the books, which I think is the single sentence summary of 90s comics altogether. It's like it made it into the trading cards, but not the comics they were supposedly based on.
Right. Wow. Hardcase number 4, Strangers in the Night, written by James D. Hudnall, co-plotted by James D. Hudnall and Steve Englehart, penciled by Roger Robinson, Larry Welch on inks, Tim Eldred on letters, and color designed by Moose Bauman. So after a rough day of fighting some other Ultras, Hardcase and Choice come home only to find the Strangers waiting on them, looking for some advice on being an effective super team. Maybe learning how to do this Ultra thing, as they say. After some introductions, Hardcase tells them his origin, about how 2 years ago he was an aspiring actor who became a superhero, found 3 other Ultras, and formed a team called The Squad. The Squad helped defend the city with the blessing of the mayor, and then the federal government came a-knocking. A federal government group called Aladdin shows up to try and recruit them. However, they decline the offer. A week later, the squad would be confronted by an armored attacker, and we know this to be NME, but I don't think it gets the name dropped in this in the first issue here that we're talking about. But they get confronted by an armored attacker that would kill everyone of the team, leaving Hardcase the sole survivor. Hardcase then pieces together that Aladdin may have been involved in his teammate's death. Members of the Strangers chime in with what they have heard of Aladdin and how it may have a facility in Groom Lake, Nevada. With that said, all agree to head to Nevada to face off with Aladdin. Once there, they arrive and the team split and head towards Groom Lake, but are soon attacked by Dirt Devil, Foxfire, and War Eagle, all operatives of Aladdin. Of note, Grenade, Atom Bob, and Electrocute are captured by a very surprising figure as well, leaving us with a cliffhanger for the conclusion of which will take place in The Strangers number 4. Yeah, the very end is like, it can't be you, and that's all we see. We don't know who it is. It certainly was that person. Certainly was. We find out about that in Strangers number 4. But that is Hardcase number 4 in a nutshell.
Well, the first thing I want to say is just it's a beautiful cover. And it's wild what they do where, like, it's really the same cover for both Hardcase and Strangers number 4, but they just redo, you know, the focus. If you get Hardcase, you know, it's a wraparound cover, then he's on the front. If you get Strangers, the Strangers on the front, Hardcase is on the back. What a, you know, in an era where there were so many gimmicks, you know, foil, holofoil, hologram, telegram, I don't know, like, you know, color forms, everything. This is a genius gimmick. Honestly, it's really proof that less is sometimes more. Because this, in a way, you've seen all of those shiny trinkets. This interested me more than a lot of gimmick covers that were on the rack at the same time. Just because I was like, whoa, okay, because it told the story to me. I knew from looking at both the covers that I was going to get a different POV as it went on. So I want to start there. Number 2, it's pretty weird how people just like show up at Hardcase's house, like, and they're just waiting inside. Like, this is like the third time it's happened in his run. And it's funny though, because like this time he's like, God damn it, I'm not dealing with this. But then, and we talked about this earlier, he falls for like I don't understand like why this is, especially Hardcase. He is involved with Choice, who is a smoke show. Who Atom Bob will let us know, like, again and again and again, fucking incel creepazoid motherfucker. And then, but Electrocute just does, oh, Mr. Hardcase. And she's a hot lady. So Hardcase's like, oh my God, call me Tom. Of course I'll listen to you guys instead of getting kicked out. Like I said, it's the old trope. Like, you know, a lady's not allowed to get in the White House. She shows her titties to the Secret Service. They let her in. My God. Because apparently this, you know, never seen boobs before. Hardcase is like a movie star superhero who is also like a quadrillionaire who has a super great house in Malibu. He's seen a lot of titties. He's seen a lot of hot ladies. How could he fall for this? But he does. This issue like really has a really, and I mean this in a great way, early 70s, mid 70s Marvel feel, where like teams are starting to kind of split up in the Marvel universe, and when they meet, everybody's got to kind of introduce themselves again. The Defenders, the Champions, these things are popping up. It felt a lot kind of like that to me, where like, you know, it's like, oh well, we're here, let's all introduce ourselves, you know, and it's very naturally done. It's pretty cool how they just fall for the old correlation equals causality trap. They're like, well, you know, Aladdin's been around. I talked to them 2 days before my friends got killed. I guess they killed him. You know, that having been said, Aladdin is up to no good. But like, there's like none of these people are the detective of the group. I enjoy the characterization of everybody. I agree with Zip Zap. Why doesn't the guy have soda? Where's the Zim Cola? I would be wanting one as well. But what the issue does really well is it gets these guys together. It gets, you know, if you were only picking up Hardcase, you get to know who everybody is really quickly. And they're off on an adventure before you know it. Both issues, too, here. I mentioned this earlier to Darry as well. They have, like, one of the things I really like about the Ultraverse is it's definitely Malibu Comics. It has a California feel. This doesn't feel like the DC universe or the Marvel universe. And not just because it's in San Francisco and LA and, you know, Nevada or what the fuck ever. It's like the way these folks interact, the issues with which they're concerned, just the way it's drawn, the buildings aren't packed together and everything. Like, it really feels West Coast, and I really like that about it. It made it stand out, and I feel like if Malibu could have gone forward, that would have been a really, really, really cool brand to have, you know, if the comic industry hadn't like imploded, because going forward, they might have beaten everybody to the punch as far as getting superhero IP into more money-making mediums. They would have already been speaking the language of the people who were there. They were already physically there. They already got a lot of cool deals because of that. Like, almost any time, like if you watch oh God, what was that? Mad About You. Like, there's an issue or two with like comic books in them for some reason. They're Ultraverse comics because they're a comic book company that was there. So if you were a movie guy and you need a big stack of comic books, you know, who are you going to call? You're going to call local comic book stores. But when you look that up, oh my God, there's a comic book company here.
Right.
You know, so like I feel like they were on a track to do that, not just with that proximity though, but with that feel. That feel would lend itself to those avenues of discussion. Great issue, honestly. I really enjoyed it, start to finish. I wish the fights were a little like, I don't know, they couldn't have been more drawn out for page reasons, but it seems like they get jobbed pretty good. You know, I mean, minor complaints for sure. This is a really good first part of a 2-issue crossover.
I only had really a couple notes here. I do love the thought that you're talking about there with the West Coast feel of things. That is definitely what I got. And I just realized it when you pointed that out. Like, you know, he's Zip Zap's looking for a soda of some sort. And of course, like some California guy is only going to have water.
He only has water, right? That's a great example. Like he doesn't drink soda.
He's watching his figure. He's got to keep that California bod. Of course, he's an actor, but regardless.
Right. Oh, that was what I was going to bring up too, was the part where Hardcase is telling his origins, right? And he's all like, oh man, all of a sudden my shirt burst off and it was very embarrassing. I was at a reading. And he's like, I got all of the numbers of the ladies in that room. And like I was talking with you guys about this, like as a general rule, women aren't into a superhero physique. And the superhero physique is more of a male power fantasy, not a sexual fantasy per se, but the perception, especially for like 12, 14-year-old young men, you want to be strong and tough and nobody can fuck with you. Right. So that's how you picture it. You're really big, you're really tough, nobody will mess with you. It's not a lady thing. So I thought that was really funny when I read that. Although California, maybe it's a little different there. You know, there's certainly a different, you talk about like Venice Beach and shit. There's certainly more of a bodybuilding culture there. So maybe I'm the asshole and I'm wrong. But like when I read that, I was like, really? Come on.
Yeah, I do like how they lay out, hey, these are the characters. They can't really do that very well with the Strangers. I mean, we get a panel for each character, and they talk about kind of like, okay, here's my name, and here's what I do. And that's perfectly fine because you have a multitude of characters you'd have to go through. But we get, in Hardcase, we get our origin story here, which, I mean, you may know off the top of your head here, Dean, but was his origin covered like this in like the first issue? Is this what happened, or are they repeating something that's happened in the previous issues with his origin here, or is this the first time we get it?
We know it happened, but like the first issue of Hardcase, the first few issues aren't like none of them are an origin issue. Okay. I think there may have been a panel or two of it, kind of like here. But like the first issue is like him like at a movie set, then being like, "Oh, I better go beat up this guy named Head Knocker."
Head Knocker.
They hit each other with a car. It's pretty cool.
I was reading that article I'd wrote, and Head Knocker shows up in the show, and my line to introduce Head Knocker was this goof. Because he is a big goof. He runs after a guy and gets his head stuck in the wall. Okay, Darry, tell me about it, man. Hardcase number 4. What's your thoughts?
This is a very dense comic. Not only do you get Hardcase, the squad, the strangers, everyone interacting, and then all these villains at the end once they attack Aladdin, but each character is set up to have their own complicated backstory that you only get little hints of. So it's funny to be reading this now and to think like, oh yeah, you guys absolutely thought that the Ultraverse was going to go on for a while, and everyone here was eventually going to get their own book and a spotlight and everything else. And it's kind of refreshing almost to just see like the imagination on display. Even if every character is not a winner, it's like obvious that they're just trying, like, no, let's get as much product out there as possible. Let's see what people respond to, and then that'll get the next book or whatever else. And it almost seems like antithetical to the way things would be like not too much later, where it's like, no, we got to take one character, give them 8 issues, really give their own arc. Here it's like, I'm Zip Zap, I'm the living grenade. I'm the character I love the most is Spectral, who has the ability to generate a different ability on the energy that they radiate, and then later on they're revealed to be gay. So it's basically the pride flag, and I thought that was great. And it was just this random thing that showed up in the early 90s. I didn't even realize Electrocute was a robot until I talked with you guys after I had read it. So again, it's just like each character is just this, they have this entire lived life, all this experience, and to see it all mashed together and then still have enough time for them to fight the government, I thought was great. And it was just one of those things where it was like, I don't know if I would appreciate it back in the day, but I certainly appreciate it now.
One of the things you can really tell when you're talking about density and you're talking about every little blip could possibly be a character that gets spotlighted later or something important, you can really tell that this universe was created at a conference, that like people sat down and painstakingly hammered out like every last bit of it, because like honestly, there's no way to argue, I think personally, that any superhero universe ever started out with a stronger framework than the Ultraverse. First off, I mean, the Marvel universe is a total accident, like it just sort of happened and then they went with it. I'm not sure there's ever been a DC universe, the way there has been like a Marvel universe or what have you. Other superhero universes have popped up, but wow, what framework here, So to piggyback off your point, yeah, you can really tell they thought this is going to go on a long time. And why wouldn't they? They had worked so hard to make sure that every screw and every nail and every board in that framework was meticulously placed and built properly.
To kind of jump off of that real quick.
Jump on now!
Well, the letters page, not of this issue, but the next issue, actually, I shouldn't say the letters page, it's some of the back matter of the book, talk about how they do that, exactly what you're talking about, where they sat down and they were like, well, what's so-and-so doing right now? Oh, he's doing this over here in this book right now. They're having conversations to try and make sure that this, this universe stays tight-knit and a continuity, if you will, is solid.
Yeah, I mean, they hammered out so much in Scottsdale at their original thing, too, like, yeah, and they kept tabs on what everybody was doing as it went along. You're 100% right.
Darry, anything else there, man?
Only, it was mentioned before that this has a very like 70s Marvel feel. One of the things I really like about the Ultraverse is it was kind of like the second career for people from that era. Like 2 of the founders are Steve Englehart and Steve Gerber, who, did many of the Marvel comics that I like from that period of time. And Englehart wrote everything, and Gerber's never written a bad comic. Granted, he's not involved specifically with the 2 issues we read that we're speaking about tonight, but still it's this idea of like, okay, what if you had taken that 70s aesthetic, that, seat of the pants thing, and you kind of, jumped it ahead to the 90s and said, all right, well, go crazy. And, you do not have to worry about anyone yelling at you, basically, like go to town. And you can see a lot of that here. Like Englehart designed not only The Strangers, but also Nightman, who had his own show back in the day. Yeah, so like there was a lot. Yeah, exactly. So there was a lot of like progress and stuff going on here. So it is kind of funny to see the, these are not new people. This is not like Rob Liefeld and Todd McFarlane and people who maybe didn't write before they had to come up with something for them to draw themselves. Like these are story creators. I'm not too familiar with Hudnall, but everyone else is a name I recognize. So I just thought that was kind of interesting.
He had written Alpha Flight before this, and have you ever read the unauthorized biography of Lex Luthor?
Yes.
Yeah, he did that. I can't remember what else. He worked on something else too. I can't remember off the top of my head. Some indie that was like people liked at the time. But when I've talked with Ultraverse guys, Tom Mason, among them, like they straight up admit, and Paul O'Connor, who worked for Malibu Comics, they're like, yeah, the idea was like this would be a writer's universe. This was not going to be like, because you're not going to, can you imagine like thinking that you were going to out art the Image guys at this time? You just weren't going to do it. So you better, kind of like if the Super Bowl's on, what should you put on? You should put on like figure skating or a kid's cartoon. You're probably not going to out and draw the Super Bowl, but you can draw some people who aren't interested in that, who want something else.
Mm-hmm. I just want to read Grenade Okay, I want to read him introducing himself to our good buddy Hardcase here. And he says, "My handle's Grenade. All you need to know about me is I'm a badass. Don't mess with me." So, of all the characters of the Strangers, Grenade is the one. I mean, aside from Adam Bob and his incessant inner monologue about how hot Choice is, Grenade is like the...
Not just Choice.
That's right. He's got a thing for Candy.
Now later he'll date Lady Killer, but at no point will this guy stop thinking about Lady. What a fucking incel. Go on.
Well, Grenade's a dick. I just wanted to put that out there, because it isn't going to stop here in Hardcase number 4. Once we get into Strangers number 4, he just aggravates me, and this is what he's supposed to do to me. He's supposed to make me feel some way towards this character. His interaction and his first introduction to Hardcase, and that's what comes out of his mouth. And then what we're going to have happen in Strangers number 4, it just speaks to what a dumbass macho man Grenade is. That's all.
Yeah, I mean, he's mad because Hardcase, he feels like Hardcase is scamming on his squirrel. It's him an electrocutor on Ida. You know?
I see.
And and so he thinks that and that's not what's happening. They talk about it where she's like, yeah. He's, and I think in Strangers number 4, she's like, I thought you like me. Like, I know what men like. And he's like, yeah, but I don't want him to like
I don't want you I don't want you looking at him, and he don't need to be looking at you like that.
Right.
Ooh, Elizabeth, I saw the lust in his eyes.
Right. And then he locked her in a storage closet like the Macho Man did a little.
Us people are going off again. Sorry, Darry.
Yeah, he didn't do that. But he's kind of an asshole. He's kind of a jock. That's kind of his thing. He wants the guy to make it like this. The Adam Bob can do anything, and he thinks so little of his friend. He's like, make me a donut, brother.
Make me a donut. Wow. All right. Let's get into our second part of this story. And this is Strangers number 4, Between a Rock and a Hardcase. Author Steve Englehart, penciled by Rick Hoberg, inked by Tim Burgard, Dave Lamphere, letterer, Rick Schmitz, colors, and interior colorist. This is interesting. Interior colorist, Food Hammer. Like, that is the name. Food Hammer with an exclamation point. What a name for a company. Captured inside the Aladdin base, Hardcase and the Strangers are looking for answers from their captors, who are now joined by an older man with a scar over his right eye. Does he ever give it a name at any point, or does he name himself, or does he say, "Hey, I'm John"? Or I mean, do you recall that at all?
Yeah, I actually had the same question because I saw the scar and Aladdin is kind of like S.H.I.E.L.D. So I was like, all right, this is our not Nick Fury's even, chewing a giant cigar the entire time. But yeah, I came away not knowing what his name was. So if he said it at some point in this issue, I didn't get it, which I think is kind of funny, considering that when the Strangers meet Hardcase, again, a person they've only seen on television, they immediately are like, this is my real name and this is my ultra name. And part of it is like, I understand you have to tell the audience like who these characters are because they're not necessarily buying the Strangers. But wow, like I don't know that if I were wearing a mask and had superpowers, I would go up to a random celebrity and be like, "Oh, you could see what I really look like and know my birth name." I don't have anyone to protect. It's okay.
There's no problem. Yeah, no problems here. I can tell you this: at one point, Zip Zap calls him Leopold, which I don't know if that is just like Zip Zap being a smartass or if his name is actually Leopold. But I do not see his name dropped. It's not like he showed up and said, "Hey, I'm so-and-so." This is right after the first appearance of Aladdin, so I assume he's not showed up in previous books, but...
No, I don't remember his name. I thought it wasn't said because he's a goddamn spook. Like, he wouldn't say. Why would he tell them anything about him?
Let me tell you, it's fine in the case that we're reading the book, but when I'm trying to write a damn synopsis and refer to this guy, it is not easy. But here we go. All right. So, Hardcase accuses them of killing his team. So he's like, "Look, you guys are the ones. You guys killed the squad, and I'm the only one left." And of course, this man denies all of this. But he also tells them their powers, the squad's powers, actually lived on because they acquired their DNA after they had supposedly had died and used that DNA to create technology, which is in fact imprisoning them right now. I think the force field that is being used was something from, was it Forza? I think Forza. Yeah.
It wasn't DJ Blast.
No, it wasn't. Anyway, that of course sets Hardcase off. This man says, hey, you guys ain't leaving. You guys are not leaving this prison until you agree to join Aladdin. Now, the man tries to convince him that they only want to use Ultras for good. And here's where we learn who Bob, Candy, and Grenade saw last issue. You know, the big reveal, or the big cliffhanger. And now we get the reveal that it was another man from the cable car, a guy by the name of Sam Grandy, who gained powers, became an Ultra, is now called the Grip.
The Grip? Jump on now!
Oh, no! Ah, the Grip.
Oh, man.
Soon Grenade and Hardcase are able to circumvent the force field that is keeping them in. They do this neat little thing where they ricochet their powers off of, basically Grenade does a blast, it ricochets off Hardcase, and because we're not, I guess, using our powers against the force field, but using them against each other, and that's ricocheting, I suppose it's the intent, but anyway, this stuff goes and ricochets and it hits their captors, and then Electrocute uses her lightning blast, bounces it off of Hardcase, it then goes and hits a panel, and now the force field is down. All right, they can escape. Now, when the Strangers and Hardcase are about to exit to safety, Hardcase says, no, wait a second. We need to go find this DNA lab. This is for the squad, baby. We are going to destroy this DNA lab so they don't have anything to use from here on out. So with a little help from Zip Zap, they all find where they need to go, and off they go. Unfortunately, Daredevil, War Eagle, Foxfire, and the Grip are there with Aladdin guards. This time the team's ready. So they were taken by surprise before. I think they were expected. This time the team's ready, and after a few close shaves, they're able to win the battle and reach the DNA lab where they destroy much of the machinery there. When the man with the scar shows up, Adam Bob says, look, I'm going to take all of your data that you have here, and I am going to destroy every single bit of it unless you guys let us go. That obviously gets their attention. They're like, okay, that's fine. We're going to go ahead and let you leave the facility. And not only that, Adam Bob's like, look, from here on out, you do not mess with us and you do not mess with Hardcase. All right. He's considered a stranger as well. Even though he's not part of our team, we want the same conditions, that you don't mess with us and we won't mess with you. Maybe we'll meet again somewhere outside of this, but right now, just stay out of our path. To which the man agrees, and they say, okay, you're free to go. So Aladdin agrees, and Hardcase and the Strangers walk free, and at that point, they say their goodbyes and go their separate ways. So there we go. That is Strangers number 4. This issue was jam-packed. There's a lot of stuff happening. You know, we got to see everybody's powers. Not only that, the note that I had here was there's a lot of team character discovery. And I don't know if that's a good term for it, but what you learn about the Strangers are they're such a new team. They're trying to, I guess, coexist well.
Yeah.
And
they don't even know each other as people yet, let alone as like teammates of a paramilitary superhero squad.
Yeah. And I think that's really cool. I mean, when you see a team that gets thrown together, especially a team with this many people on it, it's neat to watch them work through their issues or work through whatever it is so they could become more of a team. And you get a lot of that in here in Strangers number 4. So I definitely want to give credit where credit's due when it comes to at least getting that across in this issue. Boy, does Spectral put Ariel, well, I could look at that and pronounce it 9 different ways. Spectral puts Ariel on notice at one point in this book.
Yeah.
I mean, I want to find it and read it, but he really tells her off. And it basically is like,
he puts her on DJ Blast.
There's clearly trust issues now.
But like everything she says, they said in the issue before, they already sort of knew. Like right. They drive up to the fucking base and they're like, hey, we're going to talk to Aladdin. You know, I mean, like, which is weird anyway. Like, can you imagine going up to Area 51 and be like, I'd like to see the aliens, please? Like, you know, I mean, like, what are you doing? Like,
what did you think was going to happen?
Right. Oh yeah, come on in.
Right this way to the secret government agency.
Watch out for Forces force field. Watch out for your dead prince power.
What was the other thing? Oh yes, my other note was Bob and his attraction to choice and his just inner monologue every time about how he's. I mean, look, I get it. He's a young adult. He's probably in his head, every time, everything. I know that I have been in his situation where he said something to somebody and then you're like, why did I fucking say that? Why do I sound, I think at one point, I sound like a commercial, It's like, I've probably been there, but I don't know if I'm annoyed at it because I was there at one point or if it's just, I can't stand it for some reason now. But anyway,
I think he's supposed to annoy you. I mean, the thing is this guy has, like I said, almost inarguably, but at least arguably the most powerful member of the team. He can do Dr. Manhattan shit. And here he is, like, with no security, no self-worth. And, like, listen, I have my own issues with that, but, like, that's all he focuses on. And he wraps up his self-worth in, like, the adulation of attractive women, which is bad. It's not just that, like, he's constantly whining about this. He is objectifying these ladies in a weird way because without them, he'll never be good. And that's bizarre. You have to get past that. And yes, we've all been there. We have all been there. But I think all of us tried harder to get past there. If you keep reading The Strangers, you'll see that he doesn't. And he's about at the age where you're supposed to start getting past this. He's like 20 years old, 21 years old. You're not all the way past it, but you're supposed to have it a lot more figured out than he does, where he's just mentally masturbating about every attractive lady that he sees. Listen, the boob trick would totally work on this guy. My God. Like he would like sign over his house and like all of the gold in Fort Knox if you showed him like the under boob. You would have not even the whole thing. Not even the whole thing. He's such a fucking incel. But it works because the long range plan into the book, this is how you're supposed to feel about him right now. Because if you liked him, what he does later won't work.
Okay, good point. Spinoff of Grenade here, because I was talking about Grenade earlier. He thinks he can overpower what's happening in front of him with his grenade blast, not even thinking that there's a wall in front of me. If I shoot off my grenade blast, it could potentially hurt the people behind me. He lets loose a blast and ends up breaking because the concussive, I don't know if it's a concussion or if it was parts of whatever blew off of him. It didn't look like anybody was impaled with anything, but either way, Lady Killer ends up getting her arm broke because his stupidity. Grenade is, again, what a jerk.
Well, he's a jock. They established that earlier. Like, him and Adam Bob are going to, like, art school together, and he's going because, like, oh, man, college sports didn't work for me. It's a jock response, and I'll give him a little bit of the benefit of the doubt in that, like, they're all new at their powers.
Okay, all right.
At the same time, you're just not wrong. As somebody who had been part of, who had played team sports, he should have known his first rule is to make sure that nothing he does injures his teammates. And he did not think about that. Probably partly because he wanted to show off for his girlfriend because he's worried that this big, Hardcase, big action superhero star movie guy is hitting on her. So it makes sense. I like the characterization, but you're right. It's a dick move.
Right.
And it's one I would expect out of somebody from that background.
Yeah. And another thing that they kind of stick to here, and at one point, Candy Electrocute is getting ready to talk to Spectral, and she uses his actual name and calls him Dave. And then in another word balloon says, I mean Spectral. So they're making it a point to, again, show you that this is a new team. They're getting used to the fact that they're using code names and not calling each other by their actual name, and they're not wanting to do that. And that's what my final note.
If I remember correctly, they're all trying to keep their identity secret for a little bit. It blows up in like 2 issues, I want to say. Like they're not secret very long, and they wind up like people like surround Adam Bob's house and shit. But I believe they are trying. That's the deal, and she's just doing her best.
My last note is our ending, our final panel, or at least the resolution of this story, where Hardcase starts to realize that he needs to start focusing on the big picture. So it's clearly now he's starting to realize that there was probably some stuff that led to his team, the squad, getting killed that is tied with Aladdin. That's kind of what we get when we walk away from this. Is I assume that's probably the furthering of Hardcase's character. Like, okay, now he's got a new agenda. Now he's got something to focus on. Now he has a goal to further his story. But with the Strangers, I mean, what did we get at the end of this? They were just like, okay, we're off. I don't think they were setting up anything for the next issue other than the final part where they were talking about some dude. Death Wish. Yeah. Lawrence Bushnell, who thought he'd die within a week, the world will wish he had Death Wish in Strangers number 5. So, all right, I'm done. Darry, tell me about it, man. What'd you think of the final issue?
One of the things I liked was Aladdin. I'm not 100% sure why the organization was named that. A simple antagonist, right? So all the heroes get to use their powers and show off, and everyone gets something to do. And I just like the simplicity of it, where Scar is like, no, this is what we do. This is our mandate. This is our job. Like, you are an Ultra. Great. Congratulations. You're not the first. You won't be the last. You either work for us and, presumably get a pension and all the other stuff being offered during the Marvel Civil War, or you go to jail until we figure out whether or not you're safe. Like, from his perspective, he's just doing what he's always done. Like, Aladdin is shown to be like a well-financed organization with a mandate and everything else. And I just kind of like the idea that, everyone randomly got superpowers for something that's not explored in these 2 issues, but there's already an organization showing up and being like, yeah, congratulations. This is how it's going to be. Like, we will make the little deal with you here because there's a lot of you and we were unprepared and Hardcase is famous or whatever. But we're not going away. We've been here for a while. We predate you guys being on that bus that random time, or cable car, excuse me. So I like that because, again, it hints at a larger world. How long have they been doing this? Is there are they called Aladdin because they've been around like the League of Assassins going back hundreds of years? I don't know. I haven't read as much of the Ultraverse as Dean has, but I let the mind wander. And the other thing, my favorite thing about these 2 issues is we got to talk about Grenade a little bit more, because he may have the best costume in all of superhero fiction. And for those of you who haven't read this issue, I just want to describe it a little bit. He's got the classic half mask, the standard of superheroes at the time. He's got an open chest just out there, nothing on his arms. Presumably his skin has to be free to allow his powers, but that does not stop arbitrary green fabric from hanging off of him in the pattern of a green hand grenade. And then the biggest, brightest, most polished shoulder pads I have ever seen on a superhero. And then on top of all this, he is drawn just like, again, like a Liefeldian action hero. He's cut. He's got all the pecs, all the everything else. And
look at that haircut.
He's in surprisingly good shape for somebody who wants his friend to make him donuts all the time.
It's one of these things where it's like they all talk about going to the gym and they all got their little bags and everything else. But it's one of these things where it's just like, dude, what are you? What do you want? Like, what is the plan here? And every time I look at him, I'm like, I don't know what you're doing on this team, but I want to know how this plays out. Like, the first time I read it, I was like, man, you are overreacting too much. Are you and Bob gonna get together in the end? I don't think that's what happens, but that is the first place my mind went. I was like, you two are really like real chummy. Like, is that where this is going? But I don't think that's what happens.
This isn't, I don't think, a leap too far, but I want to ask, Dean, did Lady Killer design all their outfits? Is that something that happened in the comics? Do you know?
I believe so, or she does design like an update of them or something.
Okay, all right.
I can't remember all those comics run together now, but yeah, she certainly did. And she talks to Zip Zap in here, who gets involved in designing as well. What a good Zip Zap really made it. You know what I mean? I don't know that they quite get him right or anything, but good for him to be like, yeah, I'm about to make a bunch of fucking money.
I forgot about this, and I can't believe I didn't write it down. How skeevy Dirt Devil is by bringing up the slavery thing.
Oh my God, yeah. Yeah, okay, I was going to mention that because, here's the thing. it's weird how like as time went on, a lot of guys just felt, a lot of writers just felt that some things had to be done to be like to make you understand that somebody was evil. Like Martin Miller was all like, oh, rape's just another evil thing you can do, and like some people were like, oh, racism's just an evil thing you can do. And I mean, but they're not. They're different. And I'm not saying there shouldn't be any racist villains, but like this is just a one-off. It's not like he's the Red Skull or something where like or like Hate Monger or something. There are plenty of villains in history that were like super evil without having to be racist. For instance, the crazy guy at the Carnage concert.
There we go.
He was such an evil guy. He stuck that knife in just to fucking like he was ready to go. He was ready to massacre some people. What an evil dude. But you know what? He wasn't racist. So I just feel like it's weird that like, it's not even that I'm upset that there's a racist villain. It's that like, why is this a one-off thing? Like, what the fuck is this? Like, it's fucking weird. On the other hand, yeah, I'm not surprised that these secret cops are racist. So way to go.
Yeah, right. It definitely struck me when you're sitting here reading this and they're Grip, who the only thing you can think about with Grip is like, oh man, he's been led the wrong way. And now look at the people he's involved with. They obviously don't have his best interest at heart. Well, let's just put a cherry on top of that. Now he's got racists who are, love the fact that he is working with or for them.
But let's be honest about the group, okay? Like, okay, this guy goes from like cable car operator to like secret cop, but he's really into it. That guy had to be like the shittiest person to ride the cable car with. Like, he's like, oh, don't do it.
He says he wants to help people.
That's what he said, but he's also like, people need order. He was focused more on that. Him helping people is the rules. He jumps from like this to secret cop. He was always a tyrannical emperor of his little empire.
You know what he was doing on that cable car? He was yelling at people to jump on now. All right, Darry, I'm sorry, buddy. Go ahead. Did you have something?
I was just gonna say, it's not fair. It's easy to say like, oh, hey, you got superpowers, you're gonna become a superhero or a bad person or whatever, what have you. But like the normal person who like doesn't want to work a 9-to-5 job, they get superpowers and it's not debilitating. And suddenly the government shows up and goes, hey, you want a job, you want a pension, you want all this stuff. Well, what do I have to do? Well, we're going to give you a costume and agency and you're going to feel good about yourself. And if someone shows up we don't like and we're going to tell you is evil, you get to punch them with your new superpowers. And it's like, yeah, all right, that beats, again, I've never been on a cable car, but if it's anything like the subway, it's like, yeah, I would think that would be a good trade up in your career. Again, I don't know the Grip's entire backstory here, but again, it's like, Dirt Devil, the War Eagle seems to have wings or some nonsense, but it's like, you don't know what these people did before they randomly got powers and some guy shows up and is like, hey, you work for me now and you're going to get a W-2 and, have fun with it. It's like that might have been an improvement in their life.
War Eagle was literally the War Eagle from Auburn University that they fly before the football games. And when he got hit by the jumpstart effect, he became a person. I think that's his origin in my head.
That's what happened. Well, if Electrocute can become sentient,
sure.
Why not?
Why not? Actually, I don't know. I don't know his origin off the top of my head. But yeah, you're not wrong. I mean, I think you're right, especially when you're like, hey, listen, do you want to make like $60,000 a year and have government benefits, or do you want to be in a secret prison? I think a lot of people are going to choose that. But I do maintain the Grip. Like you didn't, based on what he says about like I kept order on my cable car. I'm like, great.
Yeah. I wouldn't have done it. I'm not saying it's for everyone. I'm just saying, like, try to see
why people do it. But he was eager to do it. Like, listen, I wouldn't want to do it, but like, if the choices are that or go to secret prison, honestly, couldn't sit here and tell you what I would do. What I would probably try and do is use my powers to get out of the situation. We'll see what happens, whatever. But like, I can't tell you because I do not want to enforce the government's rules. Believe it or not, I know that's off brand for me. But like, but I also don't want to go to secret prison. So
yeah. I'm just playing devil's advocate because, again, I've read the least amount of Ultraverse books, and I just thought it was interesting where it's like they're not fighting Magneto. They're not fighting this Weather Witch character. They're just like, they're fighting this government guy who doesn't, to your point, like didn't even feel the need to give his name or monologue or do anything else. And at the end, he agrees to their terms because he's like, yeah, fine, great. Like he doesn't care. Like he's going to write a report, hand it up to his boss and be like, these guys aren't going anywhere. One of them's going to screw up and then we're going to go in again and we're going to go in with more power and, you know, what have you. And I think you even mentioned one of them does have and I'm going to use the term again, heel turn in the future. So it's like, he knows he's going to get his shot. It's bureaucracy, right? The enemy of any great superpower is bureaucracy. So I got a kick out of that. And I was, again, just letting the mind wander.
Somebody did something on writeups.org. All right. War Eagle. All right. And then down here, it shows a picture of War Eagle and then it says context, where I think they usually throw in, you know, to give you an idea who this character is. And the context says the context ain't important. Honestly, that's what is written. All right.
No,
all right.
Not wrong.
Dean Compton, issue number 4 of The Strangers. We finished this story out. What are your thoughts?
Well, you get some cool super speed stuff. I'm a big fan of the vortex trick, which he does here. I'm also a big fan of the we don't have time to search, so I will search every square centimeter of this. And I'm a big fan of the I just kept you from doing the thing you were about to do because I'm so fast. Because he's like, hey, want to see me trash this panel? Want to see me do it again? So I definitely enjoyed that part of it. I kind of covered a lot of my thoughts, which one of them was like I mentioned that the Grip was apparently a crypto fascist this whole time, just ready for his chance. I think also like the first thing I thought when I read it, and I'm such a bad person, but like when Adam Bob is going to be like, oh, destroy all your data. I'm like, what are you going to do? Turn it into donuts? Like that's exactly right up my head. Like, oh yeah, this place is going to be full of fucking donuts in a minute, brother. I really like the issue overall. Both these issues do a good job. Like the Hardcase one is definitely more about Hardcase, and this one is definitely more about the Strangers, to the point where like Hardcase does several things off panel while the Strangers handle the cool Aladdin minions. Speaking of Aladdin, I think maybe the reason that they're called Aladdin is because they're secret. And I want to say there was like the secrets of the lamp and that kind of thing. Like that's a term that I remember hearing.
Okay.
So I think that's why they're Aladdin. You know, there's a hidden thing inside. I can't say for certain, but I believe that would be it.
I have a little bit of information here from moa.omnimulti.com. All right. So
all right.
This is multiversal Omnipedia. Listen, all I did was a Google search, but I want to read this first paragraph here. There's a couple terms here that may make you go, oh, okay, that might be why they're called Aladdin. Okay. So Aladdin was a U.S. government agency apparently funded sometimes in the 1960s to deal with a growing number of ultras in their world. In 1970, their scientific division, using a synthesis of organic brain tissue and computer system called GENIE.
Yes, Genie. Yeah, that's right. I forgot about Genie.
We're examining alien technology and corpses discovered by U.S. soldiers. Okay, so there you go. That's that whole Genie tie, I think, is where it probably sprang the Aladdin thing. But,
I can't believe I forgot about Genie.
Thanks to this random thing on a multiversal Omnipedia. I've never even heard of this site, but there you go.
I'm gonna have to check it out because maybe they have some information about Triumphant Comics, which is a hole for me.
Maybe. But there you go.
There's Triumphant Comics.
Oh, they were around for like a year, or around like 95. Trying to like Prince Vandal, the Chromium Man, Scavengers, and their big gimmick was that every cover had a serial number on it. So it would be like 15,172 of 35,000. So watch out. So that was them, but I've never gotten to read much of it. So I'm interested in the. I'm just interested in all this stuff. I like, we covered a lot of it. Like you get tired of Adam Bob's shit. Although I do appreciate, like all of a sudden he's very able to get something done, and he does something very grandiose, almost like with the big standoff. And I really like that. It was a good solution. Yeah, this government agency, it's got plenty of fish to fry. It's better for them in some ways not to go after these guys, especially Hardcase, because like if Hardcase disappears, people are going to look for Hardcase. I mean, everybody from like the Mario Lopez on Extra to like New York Times investigative,
they're going to cover this story.
Yeah.
Hey man, he went to Haiti during the earthquake and he found out why that water wasn't being delivered. I saw a promo about it. But for real, it would be an entertainment thing. The military investigators would be into it. Investigative reporters would be into it. Every possible section of journalism, with the with the possible exception of like the business section, they would all be like, "What happened to Hardcase? Well, I'm going to investigate this." And you could never keep that. Eventually, the secret would come out, and they're literally trying to keep the genie in the bottle. So there you go. I think it's funny how you get the end with the Northern California, Southern California jabs.
Oh,
which,
yeah.
Very natural for that area. But all in all, it's just a really good two-parter that could get anybody to read the other book if you weren't interested. And it really keeps this, it really, really stays on brand for the Ultraverse, which is a very interconnected, a hyper-connected universe. You get that here, very dense in a good way, a lot of fun. And when you're done, you honestly feel like you've accomplished something. I mean, I know that sounds weird, like, I wrote comic books. But you feel like you've moved farther along in this greater universal story. So you feel like something happened here. It doesn't quite have that big event feel, but it does have a smaller event feel.
Going back to these not being new creators or at least Englehart in question, but everyone on this team, on the Strangers, they all have unique powers, which I like. He really sat back and he said, well, wait a second, what hasn't been done before? Even with Zip Zap, who's a speedster, it's still, to Dean's point, it's doing all the interesting things. He's not just punching people 100 miles an hour or any of that nonsense. It's really like, how can I use this power in a creative way? And I kind of like that, because all the characters had enough things that I hadn't seen before or used in ways that I hadn't seen, that I was like, oh, okay, if I had the next issue of Strangers sitting in front of me, I probably would continue to read it. And again, that's just a credit to Englehart, who's like, well, I've been doing this a while, so this is what comes next. And I really appreciated that. It wasn't just like you had a bunch of random generic characters. I mean, they can come off as generic because you don't know them that well, but at least there was some thought behind what they could do. Again, I go back to this, like, there was intent for all their stories to continue, and I really appreciated that about a seemingly random book.
It also, when you talk about the Strangers, it really flies against the archetype of superhero teams in that, like, who's the big strong guy? They don't really have one.
Right.
Like, who's the face front clean cut leader guy? They don't really have one. Like, he's really done a good job putting this, a very diverse team as well, that has a black guy and a gay guy. And I don't know, Ariel is a black lady, and Lady Killer, I forget her origin, her ethnicity, but, this is a very, diverse comic in a good way too. So, which was also something that you didn't really get a ton of, outside of like X-Men, a lot of teams could look very, very homogenous, and this one looks and feels a lot different. So it's really attacking that superhero team archetype on two levels, in a really, really good way.
Couldn't agree more.
I agree.
My only question is for Electrocute. She's a fembot, right? Like, she's just not a random android. Like, someone made her with ill intent in mind.
Yeah,
So,
J.D. Hunt.
J.D. Hunt.
Like I said, there's a lot of evil corporations in the Ultraverse. Well, he heads up another one, and he had her made, as basically his fembot, his weird science experiment. And when the jumpstart effect happened, she basically was like, I'm not really going to do this anymore.
What I had read was like, he's making out with this fembot on the cable car. Yeah. People get so disgusted with what he's doing, they kick his ass off of the cable car, and then the jumpstart
grenade.
And then jumpstart.
Oh, okay.
The jumpstart happens right after they throw him off. Yeah.
Wow.
And the grip was telling them to cut it down. Hey, hey. And he's right, because
Don't make me come back there.
If DC had bought them, this would be a great CW show. Like, the Strangers, what were they doing on that cable car? Find out this fall.
The stories of each one of these characters as they lead up to where they finally come together to become a team. I mean, come on, that writes itself. Go ahead, Dean.
Oh, no, I was just going to say, I think it would be very interesting if DC had managed to buy Malibu to also see these characters interact with the Wildstorm universe. Because, Ultraverse, I don't want to make it sound simpler than it was, but a lot of it was financed off the money that Malibu made when they published Image, and so they're almost, I don't know, weird cousins, in a way. Right. And so like these characters that are very writer driven and these characters that are very artist driven, get them together and see what happens. Maybe it will be, a little let down like Deathmate, but I feel like it would not have been. I feel like it would have been, a very interesting clash of superhero cultures. And that's really, when it comes to almost any entertainment that I'm into, I'm usually interested in styles clashing.
There was never a Ultraverse Image crossover with any properties, was there?
No, and I don't think that was possible at the time.
Okay,
for a lot
I
of
didn't
different
think so.
reasons at both companies.
There was a lot of crossovers going on at that point, and I didn't know if there was something I missed.
No,
so
I think Jim Lee drew a Mantra cover. I think that's as close as we get. And I could be wrong about that, but that sounds right to me.
All right, guys, this has been fun. We've been having a good time here tonight.
Jump off now!
Let's get into plugs here. Dean Compton, Unspoken Decade. That's where we hang our hats. Tell us all about it, buddy.
Talking 90s all the time at our Facebook page, UnspokenDecade.com as well. And we're over at Twitter now, where I'm a lot more active, and I think it's a lot of fun. So come check us out. I think the next article is going to be about the Max, so that'll be interesting once Semi-Fan gets that going.
Very nice.
I like the Max. Well, hey, you can go check out the Source Material Comics feed, which this podcast is on right now, thanks to the W2M network. Source Material is the other podcast that I do, where we're talking about anything and everything when it usually comes to comic. It's kind of like a book club for comics. Recently, we had dropped our discussion on Kaiju Score. Unspoken Issues podcast. Hey, we're in the 60s now. That's right. We're at like episode 60. Just in the can, we had Ghost Rider 2099 already released. That dropped Tuesday the 23rd, and that was a fun conversation. These guys here talked Ghost Rider 2099 1 through 8 with me. So yeah, check out Cable, Blood, and Metal. That'll be dropping in the past as well. So that'll be in the archive. That's it. So we're going to get out of here. For Dean Compton, for Darry Wade, I'm Jesse Starcher. We'll be talking to you soon. Thank you very much for joining us. Jump on now!
Jump on now!
Have a good one. Bye-bye.
Thanks for joining us. Unspoken Issues is part of the UnspokenDecade.com, the home for 90s comics, blogs, and podcasts. Unspoken Issues also has a Facebook group you can join if you are interested. Just search the Unspoken Issues podcast and request to join. All of this would not be possible without W2Mnet.com and the Rattlich and Broadcasting Network, so make sure to seek them out for more podcasts. If you enjoyed what you heard today, please feel free to share, and we look forward to entertaining you again soon.
The worst things in the world, the thing I do not miss about conventions at all, are those like the people who would run the really big panels, and they were like semi-professional moderators, and they'd like do their shtick, and at the end it'd be like, follow me on social media, and I'd be like, no, you talked over Tom Taylor, like shut up and get off the stage.
Hey, you know me from the Hop Along Sassy comic podcast, where we get sassy about comic books.
Exactly.
At Hop Along Sassy, at Hop Along Sassy 33 on Instagram. I don't know. It's not for the weak.
No, oh boy. Well, I would be the weak. Trust me.
DJ Blast is the best superhero name of all time. I read it and I thought I had misread it, so I went looking to make sure that was a real character, and I found him, and just my whole life just got better.
So, Dirt Devil, War Eagle, and Foxfire. Is it Foxfire?
Foxfire, yeah.
For some reason, I'm sitting there thinking Firefox. Again, Soviet super soldiers. Confuse me now.
I fucking I know, man.
The scary guy with the knife from the Carnage comic was not at the Rage Against the Machine concert. I looked everywhere and made sure he wasn't behind me.
Well, good job. He was definitely ready to Rage Against the Machine.
One of my favorite characters to actually draw when I was a kid. And I can't draw worth a shit, but I was doing decent on the Max.
Oh, by the way, I don't know if they ever say jump on now in the thing. Hardcase is like throwing the Ultraverse logo and then it'll say like jump on now. But in my head it's like jump on now.
Jump! Jump on now, jump! Jump on now, jump! Jump on now, jump! Jump on now!
Ultraverse comic books. Now that's excitement. Superheroes. First editions. Jump on now.